stuff that you put on SharePoint in here? Because
No, I don't. I didn't bring a copy with me.
okay,
I sent you a text message yesterday morning.
a text message, yeah,
Because that's how you had communicated with me.
I can't print anything from right now because my printer is still painted.
Okay.
So if you can email it to me, I can at least look at it on my phone.
It pretty much followed, exactly just the format of the meeting. I didn't add anything extra to it, except it was just kind of a shortened format of the TFAs that are in the board book.
You mean did it stop talking a foreign language? Yeah.
You didn't get your phone? You got it fixed?
I did, but I'm getting rid of it at the end of the month. It's about 4 times it's happening. I'm sick of it.
What'd they end up having to do to it?
You just have to consistently be very slow, and I tried and tried, but I've only found one person in my echelon of friends that can do it. And except for the store, and the store was closed. So I went to that friend, and after about 30 minutes she got in.
Got it figured out now.
Yeah, I think she's just got, maybe my fingers are rough. I don't know, but it's still, when I Google, it's still find me a location. Just
Hello.
It doesn't talk regular English. It talks like I'm.
Hi, Forrest.
Yes.
How are you?
I am well.
It's just really fast.
Not enough hours in the day.
Isn't that the truth?
Let's see. Do we have Kent connected? Yeah.
Before we start,
We need to wait. We need to make sure Kent gets connected.
He's kind of
the budget guy.
before we start, these people that before we started, I'd rather just not say it in a public meeting. The women that you are hiring in the nursing program, are they low in margins at least?
Oh, yeah. They've got, one of them's got a doctorate in nursing. I think that's part of the other one has a master's, I think.
Do you have any idea why we keep having to replace our nursing program staff?
Well, we haven't for a long time had to replace, but
We had Ableton, and then before that,
she retired. She had family health issues that she had to take care of.
and then before that, we had somebody else that was not there long.
Well, some of it is that, they go back to private industry where they can make more money. Some of them have retired because they worked here. A couple of years ago, we had a number of them. Well, this spring, we had 2 that retired that had been here for a long time. And some, every once in a while, somebody's going. Hey, are you connecting to our meeting? Finance VP connected here.
Does he not want to come?
Huh?
Does he not want to come in person?
He
Doesn't think we have much luck.
Nope.
Can't. Here's Lane.
yeah, Lance is in.
Maybe he's on the old Zoom invitation from the finance meeting.
She just sent him the new one.
Yeah.
I mean, sent him the
Password. I bet he's on the old one.
He's got the answers to that stuff. That's the debate.
I know.
I understand it to a certain extent, but he's the vice president.
What?
Yeah, we don't comment in.
Tell him to call in. Tell him to use the phone number and just call in from his office. Okay.
You want me to go ahead and start things?
You mean to announce?
I can't get it.
Okay, just tell them that we're waiting on Vice
I
President.
just wanted to let everybody know that's zoomed in or is coming in otherwise that the reason for the delay is we're waiting on our Vice President of Finance to join us because he's the most knowledgeable of all the budget issues. So I appreciate your patience.
Oh, there we go.
Is he on?
Do I have feathers?
Okay, so maybe we get started.
Is that him?
Yes.
Can he,
Kent, can you hear us?
hit *6, Kent, to unmute?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yay!
Can you hear us? Is that a
Okay,
yes?
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Well, I declare the public hearing for the 2020-21 legal budget of Butler Community College now open. What did he say?
I think he's got people in his office now.
Oh, okay. All right. Seated with me around the table are trustees Mary Martha Good, Doug Law, Forrest Rhodes, Shelby Smith, and Julie Winslow. We also,
Lance.
well, I was going to say Lance. by
Oh,
Zoom.
sorry.
We also have Lance Lechtenberg joining us by Zoom. We have President Kim Kroll and Secretary Laura Jarvis present with us as well. There are other Butler administration, faculty, and staff that are also appearing by Zoom. At this time, we're meeting to hear public comments on the 2020 to 2021 legal budget for Butler Community College. To briefly explain the budget process, several months ago, we began with individual recommendations from department heads, which were reviewed by our budget officers and our administration. In conjunction with parameters set by the Board of Trustees, the administration developed a preliminary budget that was presented to the Board of Trustees. Several updates were provided and discussed. In a special meeting held on July 28, 2020, the Board of Trustees voted to pass the notice of public hearing, setting the budget at $77,915,445. The local dollars to be levied are $14,420,075, which includes $12,928,138 for operations and $1,491,937 for capital outlay. The legal budget provides the college with the ability to increase its expenditure budget in order to address a significant unanticipated expense in a timely fashion. The public notice was published in the college's official publications, and the public hearing was set for 4:30 p.m. today, August 11th, 2020, in the Clifford Stone Room of the Hubbard Welcome Center at Butler of El Dorado. I apologize for us getting started late, but we had to get the Vice President of Finance here, at least by Zoom. At this time, I will open the hearing to any public comment from individuals who are present in the room or via Zoom and who would like to speak concerning the budget. As there are several who wish to speak, we ask that you hold your comments to 5 minutes or less. For those of you speaking via Zoom, Laura Jarvis to my right will manage the technology and admit you into the board Zoom room to speak. For those in the Clifford Stone room, please submit your public comment request cards to Board Secretary Laura Jarvis, and then you'll be asked to speak. For all who are offering public comment in either format, please announce your name and address before beginning your comments. Board Secretary Laura Jarvis will identify when you have 1 minute remaining, so you're able to conclude your comments within the time allotted. The board will not participate in any discussion or take any action during the public comment portion of the meeting. And you want to see.
I don't think we have anybody via Zoom, correct? Okay, so.
Okay. So we have no one via Zoom, as I understand it, so we will proceed with those that are present in the room here today.
Laura, Lynn, Charlie in the back.
we waiting for somebody to get up there and talk?
There's a couple people that are filling out their cards.
Do we always fill out cards?
If they're speaking in person, you do. That way Laura's got the information for the official minutes. And when they're speaking by Zoom, if they want to speak by Zoom, they send her an email that they've filled out a form on the Zoom link, and they email that to her, so she's got that contact information too.
Are you ready for me?
Yes. Is the microphone on? There,
What's
Matt?
your name?
1, 2. My name is David Sundgren, and Mary Martha Good is one of my favorite people in the world. And
You know, since we're so far away, I can hardly understand you with that mask on.
that would be
Oh,
fine.
you look so much better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Much better.
The reason I'm here is two people. Number one, I'm a real estate broker. You know, number two, I'm a student advisor. I was a teacher advisor. I was down under the I was a trustee. And so that means a great deal to me as a community member. As a reason. Right here. That is my take.
You want me to start over? Is that good?
Yep.
You're good. Okay. So
One of the reasons that I wanted to see today is I know that being in the real estate business in Butler County, that there's a pretty large difference in levy by Central County. And I talked to a lot of builders. I understand some of the problems that what I want to tell you is a little bit of the history for those that aren't here as old as me, and that found the few here that probably were back when this took place. Before I was board member, and there was some deal struck. I say deal struck because I'm not sure that that's the process. But there was a deal struck where
there, is that good? Okay. Where we had out of district mill levies or tuition or whatever you want to call it, where Sedgwick County and other counties paid to this college. And the deal that was struck was at the state level, and the state took away that. Actually, and I'll just say it the way it is, the college or the county was outmaneuvered by Sedgwick County. And the deal was that Sedgwick County and other counties wouldn't have a mill levy to raise money for Butler according to their students. And that was supposed to work real good because the state was going to kick in state aid. And so that worked pretty good. Actually, while I was a trustee, I thought we were real heroes. I wasn't in on the deal making, but it looked really good for us because the mill levy lowered, and we were like maybe 12 mills or something. I don't remember that well. But the mill levy was lowered, and it looked really good. But I remember saying, and if we had minutes that took this, I said at the time that we're going to pay for this because it's not going to work. And it didn't, because the state shortly thereafter started decreasing the amount of money,
that the college got. And then we had to raise our mill levy to catch up. And Sedgwick County is sitting over there without paying any mill levy to do that. And now we have a discrepancy, and Wade Wilkinson and some of the builders here can tell you that I showed a property, a house in Andover the other day, and there's a couple other houses across the county line, and the tax difference is quite a bit. It's enough to make people locate there here. It's not fair. The solution, and I don't want to run out of time, but the solution isn't to cut Butler Community College because we'll damage it. We'll damage our economy because it's so important to our economy here in Butler County and actually the region. The solution is to talk to our state representatives and our state senators and get them to take it to the level it needs to be addressed at, and there is a solution. And I spoke to Representative Williams a couple years ago when this came up at a local realtors meeting, and she said, it's too hard to do, we'll never get it done. But that's the place to get it done, and it's the pressure that needs to be put. We've got 3 experienced legislators in this county, one who may end up being the state's, the president of the Senate. We've got Christy Williams, who is very interested in the college and the mill levy here, and Will Carpenter, and then the new Senator Mike Fagg. And I'm going to talk to them, write them letters. I would encourage you to, as trustees, and anybody else that is, affiliated or concerned with the college. Thank you.
Thank you.
Already. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation to the Butler Community College Board of Trustees. My name is Linda Jolly, and I've served in the role of Economic Development Director for El Dorado, Inc. for 18 years. El Dorado, Inc. is a public-private partnership with the City of El Dorado. My primary focus of my work has been to retain, expand, and recruit businesses to the El Dorado community that will provide core jobs and jobs that pay a livable wage to our citizens. During this time, I've enjoyed and appreciated a strong collaboration and partnership with Butler Community College. During the past 18 years, I've witnessed the evolution of physical facilities and improvements like the Welcome Center and the stadium, and I've seen the college continue to become a strong partner with our business community. I'm proud El Dorado and Butler County are the home of Butler Community College. You are the largest employer in the county. We've often heard the second largest, first best community college in Kansas. Butler County is the largest geographic county in Kansas, and we're the 8th largest according to population, which is about 66,911. And if you take the populations of Sedgwick, Butler, Marion, Greenwood, Chase, and Morris counties, which a lot of students from those counties come to Butler, you're talking about 600,000 people. So Butler's fortunate that we effectively recruit from a region with a population over 9 times larger than Butler County alone. And it's not something a Colby Community College, Pratt can do. They're too remote. So it isn't hard to recognize the value of this regional population and the students who bring outside tuition and spending to Butler. I think 2 things are top of mind is the economy of scale that helps to create, that couldn't be achieved if you only had Butler County students. And number 2, it allows those students to receive the benefit of a more robust and diverse academic offering. From the recruitment expansion aspect of my job, Butler Community College has been instrumental and a strong partner when workforce development or training is needed. Beta has been an excellent resource when we are working with companies. I've seen examples of them teaching English as a second language in a service business, creating customized training, and being very integral to the recruitment efforts that we've had with companies. BCC also makes a significant economic impact locally on the county and the region. In 2018, your mill levy raised a little less than $16 million, and direct economic impact from your college operations, employee and student spending was about $46 million. We always hear, I'm constantly being asked, now, what is the multiplier for this? Isn't it 7 times? Well, without a multiplier, the return on investment between those two numbers is $2.88 for every dollar invested, and if you want to believe 7 times, go ahead. But additionally, Butler County has continued and contributed over $387 million to the economies of South Central Kansas. Both of my children earned college credits at Butler before and during their degree completions at WSU and K-State. In 2019, my husband and I paid $838.28 in taxes that went to Butler Community College. From my viewpoint as a taxpayer and experience working with Butler, I feel BCC is a great investment for my tax dollar. As a Board of Trustees and representatives of the citizens of Butler County, I expect you to fund college operations at a level that promotes future growth, offers relevant education to students, and prepares them to enter and fill the ever-changing workforce needs of our region. Finally, I encourage this Board of Trustees to leave the local funding issue in the hands of the Kansas legislature, who created the need for Kansas counties with community colleges to tax its residents with sales and real property taxes. They created it. Personally, I resent efforts by local legislators who have attacked Butler. It's one of the strongest assets we have in this county, and it's sad to see local people attack within their own county. We should expect our elected senators and representatives to go to Topeka, represent our needs, and fix what they broke. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to be heard? Anyone on Zoom? I'm not an auctioneer, but I'll do going once, going twice. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing on the legal budget, and we'll go ahead and call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of Butler Community College, which is scheduled for today, August 11th, 2020, being held here in the Clifford Stone Room. We do have participation by Zoom. Is there anything you need to say?
No, I guess I didn't bring my, my sheet with me that I typically read for our Zoom and live stream followers, but we don't have, I don't believe, any public comment by Zoom even for the regular board meeting, but typically what we do for our listeners is to try and make sure that as people speak, that you speak into your microphones, get them up close to you, please speak into them so the folks on line and connected by Zoom can hear. And as we vote, I think it probably makes sense again for our listeners online and by Zoom, Laura, that we do roll call votes for things. We haven't done that the last couple of times, but let's go ahead and do that so those that are listening and watching can have a clear understanding of how votes are being taken and who's voting. So I left my folder with my official statement up in my office, and I apologize for that, but
You want us to identify who's here and call for the vote?
no,
Oh, okay.
not right at the moment.
I was gonna say, I think everybody knows who's here by now.
No, but
Fine, just leave your stuff at home.
I know.
All right. First thing is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any motions to modify the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
I have a couple of motions I emailed earlier, not too late.
If you have some motions, please bring them forward.
I wanted to talk about, on number 3, approval of the budget. I wanted to have some discussion there beforehand. So a motion to table and discuss that item on page 5. And then again, the same item on number 8 for strategic discussion issues and opportunities. I just thought we could maybe talk a little bit about the budget, and then classes on Zoom right now, what's going on, since we're all here together. It'd be nice to talk a little bit.
We'll follow the formalities. I think that's what people were wanting me to do from here on forward. So if you have a motion, please make it.
I would like to motion to
You've got
table
a
and
motion, a
discuss.
second on the floor.
Well, but if he's,
Don't you have to act on it?
if he wants to add something to the agenda or modify the agenda, we have to take those up.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
We need to,
The vote on that is already on the
on the
floor.
motion.
Vote, you got to vote on the motion that's on the floor first.
Okay, any further discussion?
Let me just say, Shelby, that there will be, when we get to agenda item 3, there will be an opportunity for some discussion with that, just like we do for regular motions and stuff.
It said, there's some verbiage along the lines of just, accept it, pass it.
It'll still be a motion in the second, and then there'll be time for discussion of
Yeah,
that.
but I wanted to have some discussion before the motion just to accept the 16.
You want the agenda approved, but Shelby had a problem with the agenda and wrote an email to request changes to it that was not answered, apparently.
I generally just sent that out beforehand, so you guys would have a note before we just motioned to accept it, that there was, if you call to accept the agenda, you need to give 10 seconds of time for somebody to say they want to table and discuss something.
Yeah, so
When you say table, do you mean you don't want to approve the budget tonight, or you want discussion before?
Pull it out, say, hey, we're going to talk about this, and then vote on it.
Well, I think
Well,
that's
I
just,
just
there will be
we could do that
discussion.
when we got to 3.
Okay.
I didn't mean to ignore your thoughts. I just thought we'd get to it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
We're gonna get there.
on number 8, it says none. So I assume
We're
when we
gonna
get
get
there,
there.
there's nothing. So
We'll
that's
get
why I
there.
wanted to.
There was
We
nothing
just wanna
submitted
start
in that
moving along with
topic.
this. You'll get there, I promise.
Now, here's kind of where we're at, and I'm not trying to cut you short, don't get me wrong, Trustee Smith. Basically, if you want to table something, that basically just defers it to the next meeting that we have. And I think you're wanting to discuss the budget, is that correct? Is that what your purpose is?
Before we pass.
And approving the agenda, since it's an agenda item, there'll be opportunity for discussion.
Okay.
That's not being cut out. So if that takes care of it, as opposed to trying to, having a separate motion to table it.
I'm still.
Are you good with that?
Maybe. I'm still. The only other little hiccup we had this last month, Julie made a motion for Educare and I seconded it, and it wasn't voted on.
No.
So I didn't know how we'd go about rectifying that.
Well, again, I understand that there's some people that may be upset with how we did that, so I'm trying to stick to rules of Roberts and Brown.
I don't want
that is a rule, and you
I just didn't know
cannot
if we
just
could
drop
just-
it and ignore it.
Propose it, second it.
I don't need the slide comments. That's disrespectful, and I'm trying to avoid that.
And I'm trying to be
but
respectful as well.
But you just do it, and I'm trying to correct the issue that you recognize that you think we didn't follow proper procedure. So
Right. And
I'm
until
trying
we
to
have a
do
vote
that,
on
but I don't
it
really
won't be
need
properly
the,
recognized.
I don't really need the snide comments.
I'm not making a snide
Well,
comment,
yes, you
Chairman.
did, but it's okay.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
saying that.
So we have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor, you have a second.
Proceed.
Any further discussion?
Just like
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Let's do roll call.
Oh, okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Don't do that, Julie. Don't tell me what to do.
Winslow? Trustee Winslow, I need a yea or nay on him.
No.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
No.
The motion passes 5.
Motion carries. We'll proceed with the agenda as noticed. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the 2021 legal and operating budgets. Do you have a motion to approve?
I would like to talk about it before we do that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
You got to do a motion in a second, and then you can discuss.
I don't want it approved as is.
It can be just,
So I would motion to cut the mill to 15 instead of 16. I want to discuss why afterwards.
Shelby, we talked about this at our last meeting. You and I kind of went back and forth. It is 16 mills is what we decided
That's
on.
our maximum that we set.
That is
We
our
cannot
maximum.
exceed that. I motion that it be cut to 15.
And it failed.
I'm motioning right now that the.
Oh, you're
mill
motioning
be
right
reduced to
now.
15.
There's a
If there's a
motion on,
second, we can
there's
talk
a
about
motion
it.
on the floor.
I'll second that so that we can talk
And we
about
now
that.
have a second, so we can have a
I'm not
discussion.
expecting anything. I just want to talk about it. That's why I tried to make that.
And we're now ready.
My only
Discussion.
thing I have to say here is we've got our budget and then our 10.5% of expenditures. I assume that's a board policy that was passed before us. I'm not sure. I assume it's part of our policy. We currently meet that number. We have the $5.3 million above or what we're going to spend. In addition to that, we also have $2.4 million left over above what we're required to have, which we talked about last week. So I think if we took one more mill off of that, it would still leave us with 1.6 million above what we're even required to keep, which I think is plenty. That's why I made that motion.
So Shelby, so you're proposing then a budget that would be 1.7 in the red every year. What happens in 3 years when we're now below what that threshold is? Would you propose raising taxes then to get us back to where we need to be?
No, my understanding is we have our budget, and then number 12 on page 7, we have to have 10.5% above our budget left over as a cushion. We currently have that, plus the other 2.4. So we're almost 5% above what we have to have.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is what the money's not coming back in 2022. So we are going to continue to be 1.7 light under this proposal unless you're proposing $1.7 million in cuts somewhere else. Otherwise, next year, we're going to be in the same boat we are right now, and the cushion's going to be that much smaller, and it's going to keep getting smaller.
We haven't had any budget cut meetings yet. I know Mary Martha's talked last month, that if we're going to cut the mill, we got to get serious about talking cuts, which we haven't done yet.
You don't think the college went through a huge process over the last 4 months to cut the budget?
In general, not just the college and what they've done.
I think the board does need to be a part of that. If
My
we're
major
serious about
reservation
making
is
some
there's just so
cuts.
much in the air.
Oh, I
Because of,
understand.
we don't know what our income's gonna be, head count, enrollment. This is gonna be such an unusual year. If this was a normal year, I see exactly where you're coming from.
Right.
But I just think there's too many things in doubt for me to be comfortable at this time with that
I
decision.
understand. I mean, the mill levy cut's why I ran, it's why I'm here. That's
And-
why I have to speak up now.
I appreciate that.
That's my own job.
And I appreciate the fact that we did make an adjustment
Oh, yeah.
to, for our taxpayers. But I am fearful of doing anything beyond that with so many things up in the air this school. Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Is there any further discussion? And you have to give an opportunity. Any further discussion? Any questions of Kent? That's why we put him on here.
No, but I do have questions for Dr. Kroll. Have you heard what the other community colleges, mill levy, what they're doing?
no,
When
I haven't asked.
I checked into Garden City and they're going up almost 2 mills.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do that.
Well, I think it's going to, it's dependent because each college is going to have their own unique challenges. Everybody's,
Right.
everybody's cutting budgets. Everybody's got unique challenges, so it's going to depend on the individual colleges. But we haven't collectively had any discussion. I haven't asked. The presidents are on the phone tomorrow morning or Friday morning, so I can find out then a little bit more. But I think everybody's just in the process right now of getting their
Of
budget
getting the
set.
budget.
Yeah.
Could I need to ask Shelby something here. The budget meetings, the finance meetings that you're attending prior to this meeting, what is being discussed about the reserve you're talking about? The excess, why are we keeping that much of an excess?
Well, that would be to ask.
I mean, last year we didn't have
It's to have a
COVID-19.
cushion, just in case.
Julie, with our deductible at $1 million, that's part of it right there.
We're self-insured.
Okay, but how much is our total cushion?
Isn't it 7,
No.
Dr. Kroll? What is the unreserves?
7.76.
Yeah. What we have in unencumbered cash right now is $7.7 million. So we have two, like you see on the bottom of page 7, we have $2.4 million over what 10%, 10.5% of our expenditure budget is. That's what we have as a cushion right now. for
And
exactly what
really,
you're
that's
talking
not that
about.
much. I mean,
No.
when you stop and think about it, if we would have a terrific hailstorm,
Yeah.
anything,
Kent can provide some insight. Do you want to chime in, Kent? You're muted, so unmute, please.
Well, I think one of the key things is to what Forrest mentioned, and Kim Sherwood did talk quite a bit about this in our finance committee meeting. I know Julie asked if we talked about it during the finance committee, but yeah, we have a $736,000 deficit for this year, and that's an ongoing deficit. You know, we have to figure out how to turn that around. If you look on page, well, we don't have it here, but in the information that we sent you earlier, you know, we've already cut out over $2 million in personnel expenses this year. We were unable to give a payroll, a raise to our employees because we were concerned about where we're headed in the future. Beyond that, we have a furlough built into our budget this year, which is going to be about another 3% cut to our employees. So you're saying to your employees, we can't afford to give you a raise. Plus, if you're not in the negotiating unit, we're going to furlough you another 3% of your budget. And so there's a lot of unknowns. We do have the high deductible. We have a 50-year-old campus. We're not budgeting very much at all for maintenance. I mentioned this in the finance committee meeting. I think we need to have discussions coming up from a strategic standpoint, how we want to look at maintaining this campus and what we're going to do with the campus, along with the other aspects of our strategic plan. So I think there's a lot to think about. I think a knee-jerk reaction, we've already reduced the budget through reducing the mill levy that we had originally proposed, which would have kept the mill the same. We've reduced our tax revenues by about $900,000 to the college. So, you know, you just keep piling it on, and pretty soon we're going to have a bigger hole to dig out of.
Julie, this is Lance. One of the things we did talk about, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
One of the things we did talk about was that insurance premium and utilizing some of those funds to set aside some dollars to cover that deductible, because inevitably at some point we're going to have a hailstorm or some sort of reason for that. And if we pull that down to the bare minimums, then all of a sudden that happens. That's kind of that worst case scenario, along with some of the uncertainty with enrollment and so forth, at least for this year, and then kind of see how things go moving forward. So that's something that I think we need to continue to look at. Kent talked a little bit in that committee meeting about what he just mentioned as far as the campus being able to maintain it as we move forward, and what it's going to take to do that, and kind of having a plan. So those things were talked about somewhat extensively today, and I think it's good for the board to be talking about them now.
And I think Shelley just noted that our monthly payroll is $3.2 million. And so, you know, we have a couple of months out of the year when our revenue streams are slow and lower because tax revenues are coming in. We haven't received our state aid funding. And so, it makes appropriate financial sense to probably have at least 2 months of payroll costs in reserve.
Oh, at least, yes.
At least. So,
And with the tax being due in July instead of April, that could further complicate when those payments come in.
right.
I'm just of the opinion of the next year, we really need to knuckle down and go over a lot of budget numbers and see what we can do
I'm very
to be more
willing to do that.
profitable. Because our current trajectory of losing students and increasing insurance and health insurance and building insurance, we're going to cross them. We can't sustain this. So,
We can't just keep asking for more money, and really, we can't justify the continuing budget as it is. As much as I would love to see the college continue like it is, it's impossible and not feasible at this time. Forget COVID-19 for a little bit here. Wasn't really that feasible last year, and now we have the additional complication of this health crisis. I don't know how long it'll last either, but we have faced declining enrollment, and sooner or later, just like the guy who loses his job and has to get a job at Quick Trip instead of the factory, he's got to realign his budget and expenses, and that's really what the college is going to have to do. Whether it takes all of us on the trustee board applying a little pressure to get that done, I'm all for it, if that's what we have to do.
But at this particular point in time, we have fiscal responsibilities and obligations that we can't get out from under right now. Payroll, for example. The teachers are under contract. The instructors are under contract. We are obligated to meet those requirements. We have to financially
And
be
what
able to meet it.
happens if there comes a time when we have such a low student enrollment, which could happen this year? What happens to those teachers if we don't have the enrollment to support it? Do we just tell the taxpayers, sorry, you got to pay it anyway?
They're under contract, so yes.
Oh, that's nice. So there's nothing,
There are some places in the budget that can be the adjunct position.
There are provisions in the master agreement. The master agreement identifies how we would eliminate those positions. There's a very specific process that you have to go through if you're doing reductions in force and things like that. But the first
we
factor,
really need to look at, and I guess it all depends on where we are in enrollment, say at the end of September. That is going to give us, wouldn't you agree, some really good idea where we're going to be fiscally. By the end of September, we should have the enrollment, wouldn't you agree, for this semester?
And another challenge of being down 7 or some percent, it's unlikely that 7% is in one place. It might be 10 kids here and 20 kids there. So the impact on the number of staff members might not be significant because it's hit and miss all over campus, but it needs to be looked at.
I'm just of the opinion if we cut a little bit more, and we had a 1.6 cushion, we can still work hard to make it work.
Yeah, but I think the fiscally responsible way to do it is, I mean, your proposal puts the cart before the horse. We need to identify ways to save and then cut the budget accordingly, not cut the budget to some amount and then say, oh my gosh, now we've got to get ourselves to this number, when there was no analysis into the number. It was simply 1 mil less than where we are right now. That's not doing the college. That's not doing right by the college and doing what our fiduciary responsibility is to the college.
I understand. I've been trying to get detailed numbers all year long so I could make those detailed, targeted cuts more appropriately, but I still don't have all that I'd like to have, so you don't have as much of a cushion, you would have to make it work. It'd work both ways, but I understand.
And while I understand your point, Forrest, this COVID-19, nobody has a choice that's out of work. Nobody has that choice.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
It just means that when people have to cut their budget at home, what's the difference in cutting the budget at the college?
Well, there's a lot of difference because it's not a home budget,
Because
it's
they're
not one line item
protected
at home.
and because
apples and
taxpayers
oranges.
supported and so forth and so on. I get that.
It's apples and oranges.
Well, okay.
Your
so
budget and what happens to you personally with the COVID situation and what your employment is, what your savings are,
how can you recover, I don't think is the same as looking at how this college operates and what we have to have and what we do. I do have a question for you, Kent. We talked about deferred maintenance, and I have a recollection of a number of years ago, we sort of made a list of things that needed to be fixed or done or improved. And I know we deferred an awful lot of that. Is that list still in existence, or are we still deferring a lot of those things that need to be done?
Yeah, and Kim may speak to this more than me, but we did have a campus master plan, and so those deferred maintenance items are in that plan. We haven't really been able to focus on that much. About that same time, we got notice that we'd no longer be able to stay in the 6,000 building at Andover. So our focus the last couple of years has really been on the 5,000 building at Andover. But yes, the short answer is we do have a long list of deferred maintenance items.
And where does the money come from to take care of those things? Is that out of the general budget?
Yes. Yes.
So that's another concern, that if we start off in the red, this is the way I'm going to put it, is that we really don't have the money or going to be able to accumulate the money to push over into any of that deferred maintenance to take care of any of those things. Is that fair?
I believe it is. I think it's just one of the many strategic issues that we need to fully understand and have all the board members understand. Yes.
I get that too. Part of my thing a few months ago is like when we had the server room go down. At that point, before COVID, we got one bid only, paid $900,000 to have that done. I truly think we could have saved a couple $100,000, and that could have been money that we have for other improvements. Because we need to spend every dollar the best we can and talk about everything.
If I could, there was a lot of discussion about that at the time. That was really an emergency situation. And Bill Young could speak to this. He spoke to it very eloquently at the time, but we didn't have a lot of opportunity to wait on that. If we'd have lost that server room during the heat of the summer, the whole college operation could have been impacted by that.
We had time to get 3 bids though, not just hand it off to us.
I don't know that we did.
Did we even have any kind of
do we have a policy where we have to take more than one?
Well, that was brought to the Board of Trustees, and it was explained at the time why we were going that way. And I see Bill's unmuted, so I don't know if you want more explanation.
Yeah, so I mean, the Board of Trustees, it was presented to the Board of Trustees to utilize the construction manager at-large piece that we were using since we had already engaged Simpson in our with our work in Andover. As far as a full RFP for the process, none of us were convinced that we had the time to go to a full RFP. We were kind of on a daily basis losing pieces of servers, losing technology as we went, and had the core of the system gone down. I mean, it would have been a more difficult road back. I mean, obviously we have backups, we have redundancy pieces in place, but it would have been a more difficult road back. So the Board of Trustees.
This is Shelby. I got a question for you, Bill. If you've got, at the time we were told we were going to do a significant amount of the work and save X amount of dollars. Do we have any idea what we saved doing the work ourselves, or what happened?
Well,
there?
so if you'll remember how the timeline went, that's an accurate statement. That there was a significant amount of the pre-work, the kind of demo work and some of that we had said that we'd be able to do to save some money out of that initial budget line. And then COVID hit and everyone was sent home. So we did do quite a bit of the work, but it was not as impactful as we anticipated. And I can get with Kent and get those numbers. I'm happy to provide what the numbers of the work as it pertains to the work that we did. But when everything kind of shut down because of COVID, we were no longer, on site to do that work.
No disrespect to both of you, but we're kind of getting off subject here. That's okay. And let me ask you this, Kent, your suggestion to look at these things strategically. What's the best way to accommodate that? Should we have some work sessions and just sort of have a topic for discussion at those? What do you think? You've been with the college a long, long time, and no disrespect to Kim and how we should manage things, but how do you suggest we take that on?
Well, I've had some discussion with Dr. Kroll about that, and I would defer to her. That's really her call to do that. But I think we've discussed having work sessions.
Okay, that's what I was curious of, because Trustee Smith sort of raised this issue of, maybe we need to have some strategic discussions and issues and opportunities, and maybe that's what we're talking about here, is having some of these work sessions and take a better look at these. I appreciate your comments, and I'm sure you and Kim can work that out. So anyway, any further discussion on topic?
Throughout the year, we'll be not as pressured at this
Then when we
point
get
next
to
year.
the next budget year, we will
Right,
have done
it'll be much more on top
other than.
Yeah. And I totally agree. Is there any other discussion on topic with respect to the approval of the legal and operating budget?
So we've got a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes.
15 mil.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, Shelby's motion is still on the
So we need to
floor.
call that question.
Yep. Call that question to vote, and we need to go through.
Do you want to do you need to reread the motion?
We need to cut the mill to 50.
Just 15.
So trustee Good? Yay.
No.
Trustee Law?
No.
Trustee Rhodes?
No.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Leichenberg?
No.
Yes.
So it fails.
Okay. Motion denied. Do I have a motion to approve the legal budget and operating budget as presented?
I so move.
Second. Any further discussion?
One of the things that I wanted to ask at with the last motion is that in the red, I guess I need an explanation of in the red. And if that is what you anticipate being overdrawn for the budget this year, then I'd like to know right now what steps we're doing to overcome that. There has to be a reduction so that we can stay out of that red.
I used
Can I-
that term, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I was the first one that used the term in the red. That was simply my way to reflect the fact that the budget that we had, that is on the floor right now, that was proposed
Right, yeah.
last
Let
week.
me rephrase
the Ju-
this. Let me rephrase this, please. What steps are we going to take to work within the mill that you're proposing right now, that we're getting ready to vote on? What steps are we
Let's be
taking?
clear, this is the mill that you
Right. I
proposed 2
understand
weeks
that.
ago to force us below what was originally proposed.
Forrest, I get that.
Well, that's not the way you
But I
phrased the
want
motion,
better
like it was
planning. I
something
want
that
better
Dr.
planning
Kroll
this year,
had proposed.
so next year we won't be all askew. like
We had planning, and you all agreed to a budget that was lower than what was proposed and lower than what our revenues supported. And now we're forced to cut $736,000 out of our unencumbered cash in order to have a balanced budget this year. I think that's the effect of what we've done, is we've reduced our unencumbered cash by passing a budget or proposing a budget that spends $736,000 more than we're taking in.
736,000.
Did I stutter?
Yeah, you really did, because it seems like that you think that that's a lot of money. In comparison to what the Butler County taxpayers are paying.
I'm a
that
Butler
is
County
nothing.
taxpayer, Julie. I'm paying my fair share of that just like
I'm
everybody
not
else is.
disagreeing with that, and I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just asking what kind of steps that we're taking right now. Because you are the one that said we're going to operate in red, so I'm asking you, maybe we should be asking the president, what are we doing right now to make sure that we stay
I don't
under?
think that's a fair question at all when you think about the context of how this arose. This arose 2 weeks ago because the push was we can afford to cut the mill because we've got all this extra money in unencumbered cash. That was the Would you let me finish, please? That was the rationale that was discussed, and that was the rationale that you all discussed when Mary Martha joined the meeting, and this eventually passed. It wasn't discussed with the idea that we think the college's budget is $700,000 high, and we should go back to Dr. Kroll and say, cut $700,000 out of it. That was not the context of the discussion at all. And if that's how you're spinning it now, that because we passed that budget, that now it's on Dr. Kroll to go back and cut $700,000 more out of operations, that completely misstates how this arose.
My opinion is this is taxpayer money that we don't have any right to hold on to under our mattress. I agree with Mary. We agreed to cut it, so we need to do our work over the next 11, 12 months, make some targeted cuts, and there'll be some spots we can find where we can save some money.
Do you realize the school districts hold on to unencumbered cash too?
Way
Sure,
too
everyone
much.
does.
Excuse
Way
me?
too much.
Do you know how much?
Well, it depends on what district, but I know it's had a lot to do with,
Well, I'm just telling you this in reference. I mean, our schools in Kansas are holding on to $1 billion in reserves.
Because we never know when they're going to cut state funding.
And because the state pays you late. They don't pay you on time. I mean, it has to do with up above, guys.
Okay, I'm just saying, there are things we can find
Yes.
throughout the year that'll be smart moves, like closing massage. Whenever that happened last year, year before, that's probably a good idea not to have massage class. Like we closed auto body this year because it wasn't making money. We closed Educare, or it was closed.
And there's probably some other areas that need to be looked at.
Right, I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff we can look at. I'm sure we'll find stuff here and there that will make sense.
And again, that's something that is a strategic discussion we need to have in a work session.
Correct.
The issue right before us right now is we have a motion, we have a second to approve the legal budget and the operating budget. And if there's any other discussion on point, we can move forward that. Otherwise, I'll call a question for vote. Okay.
It was to approve the budget, correct? Thank you. Yes.
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 no.
Lance.
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
All right, trustee Smith,
Yes.
so it passes by.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, Shelby.
Looks like we're now moving forward to
I'm
recognition.
just trying to get a little more.
I know.
That's why I'm here.
So I have some
These are all
recognitions.
being pushed.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I have some recognitions tonight that I want to share with you. Would like to recognize Jacob Minter, Rebecca Whitaker, and Naomi Galindo. They all competed in Phi Beta Lambda's first virtual national conference. Jacob placed second in small business management plan. Rebecca placed second in both personal finance and information management. And Naomi placed 10th in sales presentation. And our great sponsors from PBL are Noreen Templin and Janice Acow. And they, year after year, have great success and super students that compete. And so we want to say congratulations to all of those students and to Noreen and Janice as well. So we're going to clap for them. And Laura will get their certificates sent to them. I also want to recognize Jacob Jewell and Chad Hibden, who were graduating members of our livestock judging team. Jacob was named first. Every year, there are 15 All-Americans named through the livestock judging across the nation. And it's based on not only points that they earn in some identified contests, but it's also based on their grade point averages throughout the year. So Jacob was named #1 All-American, and Chad was named second All-American in the country. These two students are the 57th and 58th students from Butler to receive All-American honors. We have consistently fielded the #1 academic All-American for the past 5 years in a row. And according to Coach Taylor Frank, we are close to double the number of any other competitive livestock judging colleges with the number of All-Americans that we have. And so these are top students. And so we want to recognize and congratulate Jacob and Chad for their great accomplishments. And then we have in the room with us some volleyball athletes and assistant coach. Our volleyball team this year was named the 2020 USMC ABCA Team Academic, the top team. And so this is the United States Marine Corps American Volleyball Coaches Association Team Academic Award. And they've won this for the second year in a row. They were the top team last year as well. This award requires the students to maintain an average of a 3.3 grade point average for the entire year. And this year they surpassed it with a 3.59 GPA, which was the highest GPA within our athletic programs at Butler. The team finished 18th overall in the programs, in all the volleyball programs at the national level. So we want to say congratulations to them and great job, ladies. Oh, here. I think it's also, I also want to let you know that women's soccer, women's basketball, I wrote them down here. Women's soccer, women's basketball, besides volleyball, softball and baseball all ended up on the NJCAA academic teams list because they all had grade point averages of 3.0 or higher. Volleyball was the highest at 3.59, and baseball came in at 3.39. I think soccer was 3.34, and so anyway, good academic teams.
Very good.
And then we want to recognize
You can skip
Forrest
that last
for
one.
his birthday. Forrest. Birthday was August 1st, so happy birthday, Forrest.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Happy birthday, Forrest.
Includes our recognitions. We do have a section in the regular board meeting for public comment. I assume that's for things other than the legal and operating budget,
That's correct.
which we've just discussed. Is there anyone who wishes to come before the board to offer public comment? What about Zoom? All right, seeing no one, then we'll move on to the standing reports. Student Government Association.
Here's Kirsten.
Can you? Okay. So first off, I'm Kirsten, so I'm the president for the 2020-21 year. This is Chloe. She's our secretary and treasurer. And then not with us today is our vice president, Brett Riffle. And then we have a coordinator, Tessa Lease. As of right now, we are working on trying to get a few more coordinators and another coordinator for our Andover campus. And some events that we have had and that we're working on. We had our first meeting on July 30th to kind of discuss and plan. And then yesterday we had a block party out on the basketball courts by the dorms. Everyone wore masks and we followed the guidelines. And then tomorrow we're starting our Activities Unlimited in the Student Union in the 1500 building. It'll be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for students to sign up for whatever clubs. And this is gonna go on for until Friday, same time, same locations. And Thursday, we plan on having frozen treats handed out at both of our El Dorado and Andover campuses. And Friday, we will be hosting our first free bowling night of the semester at the Grizzly Bowl from 6 to 8, where we're going to provide free drinks and pizza. And then some events that we'll have coming up in early September, we'll have our first student government meeting on our El Dorado campus at 4 p.m. on September 2nd. And then September 4th on Friday is National College Colors Day, where we plan to encourage all of our students to wear purple and gold. And we're going to hand out some goodie bags and some treats and stuff like that. And then the following week, from September 7th through the 11th, we'll be putting together some events and informational pamphlets and stuff for Suicide Prevention Week. And then other than that, that's pretty much all we have going on right now.
That's plenty.
Yes, it is.
Cool. Thank you very much for that report. Appreciate that. Operational staff report. Lisa,
Good evening. My name is Lisa Bolin, and I'm the new president of Butler's operational staff.
Our first event this year were the welcome tables. We hosted these across our campuses during the first 2 days of the fall semester. We had a plethora of snacks and water available, as well as informational flyers, maps, and promotional items that were donated by different departments and programs. Tables were staffed by operational staff, admin, and faculty members. Offering something like this helps settle nerves for new students and gives them a little extra place to ask for help. We are also currently in the process of selecting recipients for the Operational Staff Book Scholarship. To qualify, applicants must be a member of operational staff or be an immediate family member. We typically award 2 $300 scholarships each year to help pay for books. Our next operational staff meeting is scheduled for September 10th. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lisa. Professional employees report. Terry? You up there? Yep.
Thank you and good evening. It's been my pleasure to speak to the incredible dedication and talent of the professional employees, that is the advisors and counselor and faculty here at Butler Community College. Occasionally, however, I also would like to give the board a sense of where the professional employees are on important matters. And this seemed like the appropriate time to talk about where the professional employees are concerning the COVID pandemic and what's going on at the college in response to that. First of all, the professional employees are very supportive of the college's mask and social distancing requirements and very much appreciate the efforts on the part of administration to work that out. The professional employees continue to be very interested in receiving timely notification of possible exposure from students in their classes. And again, to the great credit of administration, administration continues to work with us to look for solutions to this extraordinarily complex issue. We are also very appreciative of the efforts on the part of administration to make accommodations for those professional employees that are at high risk with various morbidities, as well as other issues that are connected to this COVID situation. Professional employees, well, in particular faculty, are very keen to have a say in the modality of class instruction, realizing that, of course, the faculty member knows what's best for delivering the best content and learning possible, as well as maintaining the safety of their students, as well as their own families. We are very appreciative of the college's continuing efforts to answer social distancing questions around the campuses. Just yesterday, some questions came up regarding social distancing in the classrooms, and Vice President Winningham and Ireland Turner immediately sprung into action to reevaluate some of the classrooms and make adjustments, which is exactly what the professional employees expect and have come to be expecting from the administration. We continue to have some concern that we've already got some students who have reached out to faculty and informed them that they have tested positive, and other identified cases to faculty that they sent me today. And so we have some concerns about how long the college can remain open. We're of course hoping that we'll get through this entire semester maintaining face-to-face classes, but I would like the board to understand that faculty continue to be concerned about the increase of COVID cases as the semester progresses. So again, just to give you a sense of where the faculty are on things, and to remind you again of what a great faculty and advising and counselor staff that we have here at Butler Community College. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, and we appreciate everything that you guys do in working with the administration and executive staff as well.
Can I add a quick comment on top of Terry? I just want to say that Terry has been part of our critical incident management team since we started meeting in March, and it's been really important and beneficial to have him be in those regular meetings. You know, when we started out, we were meeting every morning. Sometimes for, you know, most of the morning, we're down to 2 meetings a week now and meeting just about an hour each time, but it's been really beneficial to have Terry present and at the table. And you know, he sometimes hears concerns that we don't hear necessarily, and so he's been really good about bringing those to the table and helping us figure out the right solutions. So thanks for that, Terry. I know that takes time out of your schedule, but we've appreciated your voice at the table. So
Great. I'm glad Terry's on that committee with you so you guys can communicate. Board Finance Committee report, Lance or Trustee Smith? I don't know who wants to speak to that. Want to take a run at it, Lance?
Yeah, if I can get it unmuted, and certainly Shelby, add anything that you may have. But the basically the conversation today was mostly over the new budget with the mill levy that was expected after the last meeting to some degree. Kind of talks about the $2.4 million that's there and what the most prudent thing to do with that may be. Part of that discussion was around the insurance deductibles and things like that, which I think is something that we as a board need to probably consider. And then Kent mentioned earlier and talked about it in the committee meeting about just the maintenance and things, the deferred maintenance items that are around campus that are going to need to be addressed at some point and in some form or fashion as we move forward. So I think that aligns a little bit with what we've talked about the last couple of meetings with trying to set up some work sessions or so forth to look at the best way to use those dollars prudently to make sure we don't dig too deep into a hole.
It did sound like we'd have 800-ish thousand left over from the capital outlay after we're done paying for everything, a few other things here and there. There'll still be some cushion for whatever pops up.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Foundation board report, either Forrest or Kent.
Nothing to report. The board meets on Tuesday of next week, so I'll have a report at the September meeting.
And Dr. Kroll, you're next.
Wanted to just report to you that I was out I guess today's Tuesday, out yesterday for the first day of classes out in the morning, walking around campus. I was on the El Dorado campus. I'll go to Andover tomorrow. But in and out of classrooms, up and down hallways, across campus, and everybody had on masks. You know, there would be a student off in the distance, maybe walking across campus that didn't have a mask on, but lots and lots of friendly faces, and good to see people back on campus. And really, our understanding is that there really weren't a lot of issues at all with people being expected to wear masks. And if they didn't have them, we had them handy, and and they would put them on. So it was good to have everybody back. It was really nice to see cars circling the parking lot looking for a place to park. And so, I don't know, for any of us that were looking for places to park, we were part of that circle going around, but that's okay. It was fun to see the activity back on campus. Saturday was move-in day in the residence halls, and they set up a schedule so that there were certain rooms, even number of rooms came at a certain time, odd number of rooms came at a certain time, and they had the parking lot sectioned off different ways so people knew where to park. This is the first year, always before, we've had faculty and staff and RAs and every bit of person we could get to show up and swoop in on a car and unload a car and get things moved in one trip. And this year we did not do that because of our need to be socially distant and keep people as safe and healthy as we could. And so that was a little bit hard because I love moving in. That's, when you get a chance to get acquainted with students and their families and stuff, but I was pretty strictly told that I had to stay away. So I got to go over and help Bill. We served lunch underneath the trees, hot dogs and burgers to families and students. And so I got to help with serving lunch for a couple of hours, and that was still fun to meet families. And so we had quite a few people that took us up on a quick lunch. So
Dr. Crow, I was at Walmart, and I think every college student and their parents were there.
Was there? Oh, yeah.
No pillows were to be bought.
Yeah.
Blankets, mattress pads.
Oh, yeah.
Lamps and light bulbs.
I bet.
And very few were in the food section.
Yeah.
All in the.
Okay. That might be because they brought their food with them. So, so that was fun as well. We had a good day, and it's always good to get them back on campus. Just a quick enrollment update, and Jessica I know is on. She can fill in the gaps here. As of this morning, we've exceeded our head count goal by 8%, which is great. And we're continuing to increase. We're still enrolling students. We're still down credit hour wise. And I don't know, maybe after at the end of the day, it's probably a little bit different than this, but still credit hour wise down about 20%. But please remember that high school students still have not enrolled in significant numbers yet because the high schools are just getting back into the buildings, and we're going to continue to see enrollment through September. We'll know the high school enrollment after the 9th of September when they all get back, into class in whatever format that is. And we'll continue to enroll college students in 8-week and 12-week classes. And so, credit hours are still down, but we're really excited about the head count, exceeding the head count goal. And so that's good news.
What is the head count goal?
We had set a head count of 5,949 students, and we're at 6,416 students.
Wonderful.
And that may have changed. I don't know, Jessica, do you have an update at the end of the day today at all? She may not be sitting by her microphone. I'll just continue on. I had an opportunity also to attend the county commission meeting this morning, and the county has approved our request for reimbursement using Spark funds. We'll have just over $130,000 from the county in reimbursement of some PPE that we've already purchased. There will be another opportunity down the road for us to ask for some additional dollars through the county. There'll be some additional stimulus funding that's coming, I think, through the county. And then we also, I think I mentioned to you, maybe at the work session or the last meeting, I don't remember now, that there's still funding at the state level that the Spark task force at the state level retained, and they're going to distribute a specific amount to the community and the technical colleges, again, for PPE and technology and some things like that. And we know that we'll be getting some funding from the state level. It'll get distributed through the Board of Regents, but we should find out about that amount here before too long. And then we already talked about the other academic teams that were recognized at the NJCAA level. So no changes at all in the plan for sports. I think I indicated to you that the fall sports have been pushed to spring, and we're just kind of waiting to see what other changes maybe are coming our way.
Does that include football?
Everything, fall, volleyball, football, basketball. The only fall sport is cross country, And then if you have a women's tennis team or bowling teams, those are the only sports that are competing this fall with approval of the NJCAA.
What happens to all the scholarships for the athletes?
Well, those students are still here in school. They're enrolled full time, and so if they were on scholarship, they're still here. I mean, they've come with that scholarship in mind. The NJCAA waived some guidelines so it doesn't hurt their eligibility at all because they're not playing, but they were committed to come and play through some of them on scholarship. There'll probably be, well, we think that there'll be opportunity for those teams to practice this fall and potentially do some inter-squad scrimmages. So they'll potentially be playing each other. They won't be playing other teams, but yeah. So I'd answer any other questions for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Education Facilities Authority report. We did meet the other day. We approved the insurance for the facility and its operation, and like everything else insurance-wise, it was up 10%, and then we did a buy down on the deductible. So it increased basically premium from last year by about 17%. Paid all the bills that were out there. Talked a little bit about maintenance and repair. There's some, I think they're finishing up some work on some of the soffits that needed to be worked on. We're getting some mulch replaced because it's really thin and about non-existent in some of the flower beds. So it'll be really pretty for no one to come watch games. But anyway.
Maybe next spring.
Yeah, and at the time that we had the meeting, it was still in the air about sports, but obviously we now know that that's not happening. Other than that, the ever-present brief discussion of major replacements that we're going to need to do in the future, and sooner or later we're going to have to talk about those. Our skybox revenues were coming in fine. Hopefully that the pandemic's not going to cause an interruption in those. They're contractual, but everybody seems to be good-spirited with those, and we're paying those on time.
Trustee Howell and Dr. Crow, I still don't understand why we could not collect COVID money on that.
It has to be, well, and I don't know that I can answer that for you for sure. It was related to the email that you sent to me, correct? And what I was told was that because it's a partnered, because it's 501c3, it would have to be either the college foundation that would submit that application or the school district foundation that would submit any kind of an application for, but see, I don't know that.
The lost revenue is going to be so evident.
It is, but I don't think that funding covers lost revenue at this point in time. One of the next stimulus packages coming supposedly from the federal level may allow us to use that funding for lost revenue, but there was minimal lost revenue this spring related to the stadium, really.
Track meets?
Well, high school, college doesn't host any track meets there in the spring. The high school maybe did.
Where was the Shrine Bowl this year?
Yeah. They had contacted us to see if we would host it, and it was right in the middle of everything, and we just said no. We weren't interested in having the band kids in our residence halls and the cheerleaders. Well, the residence halls weren't even available because we had facilities folks in working on them. So we just weren't interested in hosting at that point in time at all. But again, that was a decision by the city and the school district and the college, not just the college's decision, but it was that partnership decision. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're kind of watching it. If one of those stimulus bills comes through and it can support lost revenue, the fact that the college hasn't been able to play any soccer games or any football games there this fall, the high school sports are right. The high school sports, are still on the schedule, but it's hard to know whether they'll be able to continue or not. So there's a potential that there'll be some fall lost revenue that's directly impacted.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's all there is to report on EFAD. Looks like we move on to monitoring reports, of which there are none. Board strategic discussion issues.
Shelley, did you want to interject anything there? Are you satisfied?
In the, on issues not
Strategic
to-
discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just say a couple things, just.
Well, we said that you could.
Well, I know, so I was waiting for you.
All right.
But I just had a question. I know it's going to be really unusual what's happening now with every class, and I've got 3 kids enrolled now, which is all anecdotal evidence, but probably half of their classes have changed from day to day. And my daughter enrolled in face-to-face French. I don't know if because there's more than 12 students, it went online, so she dropped that. I got a son with cooking class, kind of cutting half of that out so they meet maybe half as much. I have a daughter in an art class. It was supposed to be Tuesday, Thursdays. So they split the class and she only gets to go half as much time. Another one in English, it's the same type of deal. It was supposed to be 1 to 2:30, so now it's just 1:45 to 2:30. So it's the same amount of work, not really enough class time. So hopefully we're on the side of working with students. I know the teachers are concerned about health issues also, but it's going to be a little bit of a bumpier ride, it looks like, and this is just 2 days in. It's like, hopefully the students will be fine with what's happening and the teachers as well and can work it all out, because at some point, if it flips more towards online, that's a lot of money for just what we experience with Zoom and everything.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lori.
So we've been planning this for months, and I have asked faculty to be ready for remote instruction from day one, not knowing if and when we will have to go to remote instruction. We do not have enough classrooms to lower the capacities to social distance and double the number of sections that would have to been added to the schedule. Particularly in some of the lab sciences and studio classes like art, we may only have 1 or 2 labs or studios that you can do those kind of classes in. So we made the decision that faculty, once they hit the COVID capacity, that they would have to split the scheduling of the face-to-face part. They are not to reduce the learning outcomes. They are to provide additional materials and assignments through Canvas. If the class does not exceed the COVID capacity, they're meeting as usual. But we did not have enough rooms and would not have been able to double some of the sections in some departments to manage lowering all of our seating capacities by half in most cases. So we've been planning this for months. And yes, I know students are to some extent maybe frustrated, but we've been trying to communicate that. Faculty have made an effort to put emails into Canvas and letting students know that they're going to work with students. We have situations where students are going to have to go quarantine, or faculty may have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So this is, it's unusual. I understand that it's not what students may have expected, but faculty are not reducing the learning outcomes. They are augmenting things with online instruction. If a student is in a class that's being split, they're not being charged online fees. And faculty that are teaching face-to-face classes that have had to teach remotely, those students are not being charged online fees. So it's only the online courses that were designed to be online that have online fees attached to them. Terry, I know if you'd like to add something in here, I have spent 2 or 3 hours today going through the entire room check for Andover and El Dorado and highlighted the sections that are over the COVID capacities so that faculty will get that this evening. They're having to monitor their classes daily in the event that if they get a few more students and that pushes them over the capacity for that room, they'll have to split. Likewise, if they lose a few students and it drops below, they can go back to regular class meetings. It works both ways. We've added 12-week sections 8-week sections to try to capture some students that may want to start a little bit later. And online enrollment is up from what I've heard from Jessica. So students that don't want to mess with the meeting face-to-face or afraid about that, they have online options. We also have a process where students, if they're in a high-risk category or a family member is, they can submit a request to me to learn remotely. And I am getting requests from students now to learn remotely. And again, faculty are having to work with those students, even if it is a face-to-face class. So this is not something that I don't ever want to do it again, but I will say the things and the plans that we have put in place are very much in line with what most of the other colleges and universities are doing. I had an opportunity to read Emporia State's plan, and ours is very, very similar to what Emporia State University is doing. I have 3 kids at Kansas State University, and many of their courses are doing almost exactly the same thing. So if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer it, but we've put a lot of planning into this, and I know students may find it unusual because they're not used to it, but I have complete faith in faculty that they will make the best of this and help those students be successful.
This is Shelby again. I'm not trying to be accusatory. I was just sharing with, like, this is going to be a rough semester, and hopefully the teachers will take it well and the students will take it well. There won't be animosity between them, and hopefully spring will be like normal. But that was just my 2 cents of, like, yeah, it's very unusual, and it changes from day to day and hour to hour, and you get on pipeline and like, oh, hey, my class is now online, or my class is a different day, or it's only 1 day a week. It's just, there's a lot going on. That's all I want to talk about. We're the strategic discussion. I wanted to do a little bit. So.
Lauren, what's COVID maximum in a classroom?
It depends on the classroom. I've got a whole chart that every single classroom has, we've established a COVID capacity. I initially started with dividing each square footage for each room by 36 square feet. But then Ireland, Terry and I have went through classrooms, measured with a 6-foot stick or 6-foot measuring device, and rearranged furniture. We had to account for equipment, and some rooms have long tables, some have short tables. It really it was done room by room.
How did the students know where to sit? Do you have like a X marked?
Yes, facilities has put X's on tables or X's on the computers where they are not to sit. We did not have storage to remove excess furniture and seating. And so in most classrooms, there's a stack of chairs in the corner. And the rooms, like I said, have been rearranged to space the tables out as best we can. And it really was a classroom by classroom because we don't have standard furniture to deal with something simple. So I can't, it ranges from some classrooms 9 students to, I think the lecture hall will hold 35 or 36. We've got a couple of large classrooms in the 1500 building, but they are for nursing and they won't accommodate the size of the nursing classes. So nursing is meeting over in the Welcome Center, some of their classes. It really has been an effort in being creative and trying to figure out how to make this work.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate all your efforts. Terry, is there anything that you might be able to add to Trustee Smith's inquiry?
I would only tell you that from what I've seen, faculty have been very light on their feet to keep up with a very ever-changing situation because we can, Monday morning, we can be well within the COVID seating capacity in a classroom. And then by the time class starts, and we look at our class roster, we've suddenly gone over. And so faculty have to respond to that. And it's really quite amazing to watch faculty figure things out on the fly, so to speak, to make it all work out. You know, we're constantly telling our students, everyone's just got to be flexible here, and please check your email all the time, because we're going to keep you informed as much as we possibly can as things change. As Lori said, we're all working very hard to just keep up with this question.
You know, I would like to point out that we put notes in the interactive schedule trying to get students to be aware that some face-to-face classes had to go remote. Students don't always pay attention to that stuff. So advisors have tried to advise that, hey, this section is now remote because the instructor's been approved to teach remote. We had an enrollment checkpoint meeting this afternoon and discussed how students were coming in and making some schedule changes because they didn't want their class to be remote. And as soon as I got off of the 30-minute Zoom meeting, looked in my email, and I had another approval that an instructor had been approved to teach remotely. I mean, that is how things are happening minute by minute. And, you know, we're doing the best to keep students informed and advising informed, but there are certain limitations. People have to read the notifications.
I also just want to say that this spring, when we got to the end of this spring semester, we moved remote in March. We had a higher retention rate this spring than we had compared a year ago. I think it was just up 1% or something like that, or just over 1%. But you know, faculty and staff worked really, really hard to support the students, and I think that that's the sense again. You know, this coming fall semester with all of the changes, people are really focused on trying to rally around these students and help them be successful and help solve the problems for them, because it's just changing all the time. So.
And Dr. Kroll, my apologies. This is Jessica. I tried to unmute and take off my camera, and Zoom disconnected. So I am here. I did hear you asking me about enrollment questions. So if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I think the question that I asked was if there was a change. I gave them your enrollment update from this morning. I didn't know if you had one from late this afternoon at all, if you ran one at all or not.
I did. I know we're over, we're about 65,500 credit hours, and about 6,400 students. And I don't know if you shared with them that we had a very, very busy week. Just looking back over the past several years, we've never had a week this busy. We enrolled 1,100 students just last week for the fall semester. And it's slowing down a little bit, but we're still enrolling students for classes that start this week and 12 weeks and second 8 weeks.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Trustee Smith?
One other tidbit I had on there. I know I'd mentioned a couple of times on the satellite campuses, maybe they could cover what we as Butler County taxpayers cover. I was thinking last week or last month talking with Kent, our taxpayer contribution per credit hour across the board kind of averages $88 an hour. That might be a number we could just throw at them, like, hey, if you guys have 1,000 credit hours, $88,000 is what Butler County residents pitch towards that number. So that's the only other thing I have.
Good.
All righty then.
Good to know.
Let's move on then to board action items. The first one being reaffirmation of efforts for ADA compliance. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second? Second. And any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I have this is going to sound odd because I have nothing whatsoever against fully committing to comply with the ADA. That's what I like about this. What I'm concerned about in the language of the proclamation is the idea that we're talking about efforts to reach ADA compliance, which to me suggests that we don't think we're there right now.
Teresa Eastman's here. She's our Director of Disability Services, and I know she can speak to that. We emailed back and forth just a little bit, so thanks, Teresa, for being here.
Thank you for having me. For us, what that means is we're striving, it's a continual process. ADA sets the bar, but we're continually striving. We have students every day that may need a specific need that we need to meet. We're compliant in that, but it's not just a one shot and you're compliant. Every 10 years we have an audit done. We had one a couple years ago because we were selected by K-Board. They select so many institutions in the state each year. So we may find something that, for instance, facilities may find that some pipe under a sink, the insulation has came off or something like that. Technically, that's out of compliance. So we look at that, we fix it. So it's a continual process. That's what we're striving to do, is to be compliant.
And I would expect nothing.
It's kind of a wording, kind of a weird wording on that.
And maybe it's just me. I'd prefer we say something like remain fully committed to ADA compliance or to maintaining ADA compliance.
And that document came from the association.
Just to me, I just don't like that word
That's
in
fine.
this context.
I like that. Motion to change that wording right there.
I don't know if we heard.
And that document came from the Association of Higher Education and Disability. I didn't write that, so we can change that document to whatever Butler Community College wants to say.
If we do change it, will it put us under any liability to update? Okay.
No.
What's the preference for the change?
I guess my preference would be, and it's the word reach in the third paragraph. We could either say maintain or efforts to fully implement the ADA, which is consistent with the second paragraph.
I like implement.
I like maintain.
I don't know if I get a choice, but I like implement.
The final paragraph where it says work toward full ADA compliance, work toward maintaining ADA compliance.
I like that.
Because, and I like that too, because, when we got the K-Board report, I mean, we started working on those right away because we had to go back and report to K-Board what had been done and how we had fixed things. And so, it's not something that you can just let go and ignore. And so I like that approach of, do we need a motion to change that, Chair?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and restate the motion with the withdrawal, the original motion, but that we go ahead and reaffirm the commitment to work toward full ADA compliance at Butler Community College as with the amended language that we just discussed. You have a motion?
Well, I'll just change my motion to match that,
that
please.
works. Do I have a second?
That.
Okay, and we have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, we'll call the question. Sorry.
Did you say maintain?
Maintain, yes.
Yes.
Now remember, maintain means you just keep it. Implement means you're always updating.
I guess my thought was we believe we're complying with what the ADA requires right now, and we're simply saying we have no intention of deviating from that. We want to continue to fully comply with what ADA requires.
We're going to maintain our compliance.
I don't like it, but
We're going to maintain our implementation.
Can you live with it?
I can live with it. Yes.
Well, I'll call the question for a vote.
Okay, trustee Good,
Yes.
Law,
Yes.
Road,
Yes.
Info,
Yes.
Luckensberg,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for indulging my wordsmithing.
Thanks, Teresa.
Well, I want to thank you all for your continued support.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I've been here 20 of the 30 years of the ADA anniversary, and the support from the board to Dr. Kroll, to my supervisor, Mr. Rinkenbaugh, I couldn't do my job every day without you all. ADA compliance is a college-wide initiative, not just my office, so thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
You're quite welcome. It's a team effort. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is equal opportunity harassment, non-discrimination policy. I assume all of you read it. It is in the board book.
I'm looking at the words right now to see if I want any change.
Okay.
Wow.
So important for you to know that this has come about because of changes at the federal level, required changes at the federal level related to Title IX. They released those changes and gave institutions a really, really short time frame to change policy and become compliant. We had to become compliant by August 14th. So the approval tonight by the board gets us in right under the wire. Our Title IX team is trained. They continually do updates and participate in training, and worked with the TICSA, which is a national organization that assists with compliance and training and keeping people up to date on what's happening with Title IX and supporting institutions. And so a TICSA helped provide the template for policy changes for institutions across the nation. And so I think we implemented a lot of TICSA's template, correct, Bill?
That's correct.
Yep.
Sherry Connor, the Title IX coordinator, is online.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, Sherry. I didn't realize you were there. My fault. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just here for questions. So, but yeah, like Dr. Kroll said, ATICSA, which is our Association of Title IX Administrators, which Butler is a part of, they are comprised of legal counsel who are experts in the field of Title IX. Money well spent to keep us in compliant with the Title IX Education Amendment of 1972. So this is just a federal sex and gender equity law that schools they govern how we have to respond to allegations of harassment and discrimination. And so the purpose of our policy hasn't really changed. It's just the verbiage changed just to align with the May 6th new regulations issued by the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. So
I move that we adopt the equal opportunity harassment and non-discrimination policy as presented.
Second, do you have a change?
I'm hunting for an N or an or.
You're jumping the gun.
We're going to make her stay home after this.
Well, we have a motion. We have a second to go ahead and ratify the policy as written. Call the question.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
Trustee Lexford,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next motion carries. The next item is the infectious disease policy.
Yeah.
And if you want to break the rules of Robert, talk about it first, be my guest.
Whatever you want me to do.
Well, just, we're trying to follow the
Yeah.
rules, but it's fine if you want to go ahead and give introduction to it. Some people may not have had a chance to read it, so it might be helpful.
Well, and again, this came about because of the situation that we're in, actually, and the serious disease policy which we had is a little bit outdated, and really what kind of spurred us on with the changes and updated infectious disease policy is the expectation from the Kansas Department of Health that we allow students, specifically students and staff, to opt out of contact tracing. So if we have a suspected positive case with KDHE, we have to allow people an opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want my minimal contact information, my name and phone number is what minimal contact information is. I don't want my minimal contact information to be shared with the department, with the county health department to do contact tracing. We have to allow that opportunity for people to not be involved in that. And if we want to contact trace, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you still have to offer that chance for people to opt out. And so and that's just, kind of in a nutshell. And so when that was identified that we needed to provide that opportunity, we looked at our serious disease policy and thought, let's just go ahead and update the whole thing. So it's more relevant, so it's easier to read, and so it follows the format that we want, where we actually have kind of a policy statement and then the guidelines. This infectious disease policy, I'll be honest, I sort of copied and pasted it from Johnson County Community College. I looked around and they had, theirs was more comprehensive, and it provided some information in here that we really didn't have when it talked about restrict travel to high-risk locations and following guidance or directives from local, state, and federal authorities. It had some broader language in it that we felt like was probably better. The last couple of bullet points here really specifically speak to the guidance that's come from the Department of Health that we want to maintain confidentiality of and or disclose the identity and other information regarding infectious disease as may be required by law. Provide minimal personal information to the county health department as requested to allow contact tracing. Students may opt out, employees may opt out. And so those guidelines came to us from the state level. There are a lot of other guidelines that go along with that as far as what we can and can't do personally as an institution with contact tracing and some things like that. So this adheres to what the Department of Health expects, allowing specifically students and employees to opt out of releasing that information.
Do we ever get a vaccination record on students entering?
We do, yes. Our director of college health requires some vaccination records to make sure that students have meningococcal and I'm not sure what all, measles, mumps, rubella, all of that sort of stuff, I think. So those all get filtered through college health. And before they have, I guess I should say it this way, the students that are going to live in the residence halls have to provide that information. Yeah.
Our nursing students also have.
That's right. That's good. Yep. Yeah. Right.
Regardless of COVID.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the infectious disease policy as presented.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on page 16, and Sherry, you might want to comment on this too. This is going back to the policy on harassment. The college has designated all full-time employees as mandated reporters. How come it just isn't mandated all employees to be mandated reporters? I mean, this is a really big thing to be a mandated reporter. People need to know that they are a mandated reporter and to call. Sherry, is it full-time only? Yoo-hoo!
She may have stepped away. Let us find out. Let us find
Okay,
that out for you.
That's the only thing I would question is that full-time.
Okay. Yeah, let us look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, the next topic for action is the retirement of Pamela Sue, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that.
Barrientos.
Anybody want to speak to that?
Probably Lori.
Yeah, I would. I've been here since 1992, and Sue was here long before that. I don't even know exactly what year she started, but Sue has taught behavioral sciences and early childhood courses for her entire career while she's been here at Butler. She was the one that really fought for and got the EduCare facility started 24 years ago. I was fortunate enough to have all 4 of my children at EduCare at one point. I felt like I paid the mortgage over there with 4 of them in there at once, but it was a great facility. Sue is going to be very, very missed by students in the early childhood program that we still have. She has always been very admired by her students, is a community person and loves children more than anybody I can think of. So for me, I met her my very first summer here at Butler, and she is very near and dear to me, good friend, and I will greatly miss her.
Okay, well, thank you, Lori. Do I have a motion to accept Sue's retirement?
So moved. So moved. I'll do it again.
Second?
Second.
I
think
have
we
a
need to have a
question.
discussion, do we?
I just have a question.
Okay.
Not really discussion. Why do we accept these when sometimes they don't retire or stay gone? I don't know.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know if I want to get into detail, but I know that we have accepted resignation in the past. I don't know that we really need to do that, since some of them come back and get rehired. We don't ever come back and say, yeah, we're going to approve that rehire. So do we really need to accept the resignation when?
Shelley can speak to that. You want to?
Yeah. So the faculty the faculty and the board enter into a contract each year for their service to the college. And so when one of those retires, they are in effect nullifying their contract. So the reason that we bring those forward to the board is so they understand that someone that has been in contract with the board is now relinquishing that contract via retirement or termination or what have you.
Wasn't it decided to do that as an opportunity to recognize the individuals upon the occasion of their retirement?
Yeah.
Rather than just putting it in the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that would be true as well.
And we do sometimes rehire faculty to come back and teach part-time. It has to be within CAPER's guidelines and those kinds of things. They'll
Well, I
oftentimes
know
come back.
Rickenbaugh wasn't gone very long, and then he was back.
Yeah, and that was within his, he hadn't officially retired yet. He was still within his retirement date, and so, yeah.
So they have so many days, and they can come back without.
It kind of depends. I mean, it depends on when their official retirement date was, but in Bill's situation, his job with ACT was being cut. And his position was still open. We hadn't made a decision about, posting and moving forward to hire a different vice president. And so it was a request to be able to come back. He still hadn't officially, his last day hadn't come back to us. And so, we brought him back.
What's a good time too to recognize whenever you have people retire, like she said, that come. We recognize that the contract is ended, but it's nice to recognize them in other ways than service.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any other questions concerning that or any discussion?
Oh.
I've got one piece of information for referee Martha. I heard from two of our Title IX team members, one from Sherry and another Title IX team member. The reason that full-time employees, all full-time employees go through Title IX. That indicates what a mandatory reporter has to do. To ensure all of our part-time employees, including absent, get that training. It's a little difficult because of the numbers and where they're at. So that's why we've got full-time reporters and full-time employees as mandatory. We ask the part-time employees to report if they know, but it's not mandated.
That makes sense.
It should be. I mean, and I'm talking about child abuse. I'm not talking Title IX rights, but
Well, they are mandatory reporters otherwise.
they need to be, yes.
Yeah, the law requires that in that case.
Yeah, any educator's a mandatory reporter, whether you're full-time or part-time.
I was interpreting that just a little bit different.
Yeah, everybody's in that case.
Thank you, Bill, for that insight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rickenbaugh.
We have a motion and a second to accept the retirement of Sue. Call the question for vote.
Good.
Aye.
Trustee Love,
Sure.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Mecklenburg,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Retirements accepted. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda itself. Do I have a motion to?
You do. I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I would ask one, that the minutes of the July 28th meeting be amended to reflect that I was actually presenting. I was there by Zoom.
Where was, on page 23?
Page 58.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's just clerical change.
And I was just getting ready to tell Lori what a really good job she did on all these minutes.
She did an outstanding job.
She did.
And what were you, Forrest, you were there? Or you weren't?
I was present. I was dodging raindrops in Colorado.
Like everybody on vacation now has all gone to Colorado. Is it that nice at this time of year?
Oh, it was nice. It was the third option of our vacation plans as COVID continued to knock down one after another. So, no, it's a great place.
With that clerical change, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Yep, yep.
Okay, call for question for vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, consent agenda is approved. Supplemental information. Amanda, anything?
The key performance indicators that are on 77 haven't changed. I'm sorry, they did? Oh, the Board of Regents ones. We updated those, yeah. And you saw that performance agreement document last month. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, they did.
I do want to point out on 78 and 79, the thank you notes. We, as a college for a long time, have provided, well, a number of years, we used to buy a side of beef or something in the 4-H sale and then, have it slaughtered and do burgers or whatever for, employees on campus. And I think right after I got here, that changed maybe, but we give a scholarship certificate now to the students or the 4-Hers that are the champions in the different divisions for showmanship and arts and crafts and things like that. And so these thank you notes are always really fun to receive. And some of these students are, they're young, but those scholarship certificates remain in effect until they would come to Butler. So we just keep them on record. Also wanted to point out to you a really nice thank you note from the financial aid office. If you'll note that on the middle of page 79, thanking the board for your support in the increase in contribution towards the health insurance for employees. So I wanted to make sure you noted that.
Very nice.
Yeah, it really is.
So
It was a
nice.
nice, it came as a card. It was a nice card signed individually by all the financial aid folks. And so I wanted you to know that. Just the activity calendar, the only thing that's, on here at this point in time are, some tentative kinds of things with instrumental music and fine arts, and we've got a couple of cross-country things. And then September board meeting, we'll make a decision here. We may end up having our September board meeting over in Andover. So I'll let you know if we're going to update that.
Miss
but-
the scenic drive. Do that.
Huh? I know, you're just going to have to come down the road, aren't you? Yeah.
Well,
So that's all I know. Anything, Laura, from your perspective on the calendar at all? Okay.
okay. Nothing further. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Does anybody want to discuss the motion to adjourn? If not, I call the question for a vote.
Mary, you want to discuss, Mary?
I wanted to discuss, are we going to talk about work session,
We're not having a work session tonight.
study session to talk about budget?
We can. Let me talk to Ken. My preference would be, you want to vote on the adjournment? And then we go.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Okay. Let us get a week or two into class.
Sure.
Let us get past Labor Day. With everything that's going on.
I know.
But we will. We'll
Okay.